So thank you so much. For this roundtable called Implications and Applications of Action Development to Early Infant Care, I choose to bring some combination about what we were doing, what I was doing during my PhD. So to show you the experimental design that we create to investigate active development in infants, especially in the hand active movement, the hand active action, the hand action, and then to combine the experiments that we made with some theoretical background and with some implications for the practical day life, so for everyday life. So to start to talk about the hands as a developmental tool for autonomy in newborns, we should be clear what does it mean, autonomy in newborns and young infants. And when I say autonomy for them, it's not that they are able to do everything alone. Of course they depend on adults. But autonomy, it's much more about give them opportunities to choose things to do. So they need to have the opportunities, and then they can make choices about it. So they must be able to search for their own experiences and choose what kind of action they want to do. So starting from here, we can tell that they show preferences and they can choose things from the very beginning. So this is just an example of an experiment who investigated the looking behavior, so actually the head turning behavior during the pregnancy inside the womb. So the fetus inside the womb, they investigated how was the turning head behavior when they put lights on the belly of the mother. And if these lights, if these dots of lights, it was kind of a face style, what it means, two balls on the top and one ball on the bottom to illustrate like eyes and mouth. So the head turning from the fetus was much more they turning their heads much more times to the situation where we had the balls as a face, as in the opposite condition that was not a face. So they turned it towards the light much more times when it was like a face shape. So some would say that it's a biological event, but they just did that. So it's something that they can show their preference, but we have to give them the opportunities to show that. But of course the preferences are integrated in their culture, in the culture that they are embedded. So once adults must offer them opportunities to know things and to be involved in different tasks or different contexts, they will be able to choose. We are not able to choose something that we prefer if we don't know such thing. So that's why culture and care is so much important for infant active development. So once adults must show them opportunities, different opportunities. And the other things, adults must provide them situations where they can choose what they want to do. And this is just an example to how different cultures can raise infants. So different practices that they can do and provide them different experience when they are using their bodies in their everyday life. And to see the preferences and to see how they use their body, to see how they act in the world, we choose the hands. There are many ways that an infant can show their preferences. So they can look for something, they can smile, they can cry, they can do several behaviors to show what they like, what they want, to show their wishes. But we choose the hands because hands is an important tool which you can use to modify the environment. So by looking in a normal situation, a standard situation, you cannot modify nothing. But by hands you can do this. You can transform things in other things. And you can really show and you can really communicate what you are planning to do. So based on this, that hands is such a important tool, and given that they show hands movements from the beginning, so just before being birthed, but if they are born, they can show you what the hands, they can show some kind of movements with the hands. So then we choose the hands to create a design where very young infants could modify, could interact with the environment. So what we did was put into their hands an equipment that they could press. So when we put the equipment into their hands, they grasped the equipment, and this equipment had a transducer who got the pressure and transformed in data for us, in pressure data for us, in digital data for us. But the pressure that the infant was doing in the equipment could activate a small clip, a small video in a monitor in front of them. So first we had to see which was the mean pressure for each infant, to decide which pressure would trigger the movie. So then first the infant just had the equipment into their hands, and then we measured the mean pressure that they had. And then we used this mean pressure for another condition that we called contingent condition, and every time that the infant reached that pressure, the video was triggered. And then it was a way that the infant actions would modify the environment. So the video only would appear if the pressure was done. And we had another condition where the video was showing up independent of their pressure, that we called a non-contingent condition. So this is just an example of one situation. It's a 1-month-old infant. So every time that she reached the pressure, she got the video in front of her. And of course, during this situation, many things was going on when she was trying to understand what's happening. So, am I doing this? So what's going on? What's happening? So this was the basic setup that we've done. So the main idea it was give the infant the opportunity to change the world in a way. And just to show briefly some results that we found. So when they didn't get the video in the baseline condition, they were just pressing pressing the equipment. We saw that the frequency of clutching behavior, because they hold the equipment and they keep clutching the equipment into their hands. So we measured this clutching behavior. So the clutching behavior increased as they get older. In the literature, this clutching behavior is already called an exploratory behavior, because the full behavior, so when you put something into the hand of an infant and when they grasp, it's called a palmar grasp reflex. That is considering for it's been considered for many years in the literature that it's an automatic response. It means that there is no brain participation in this response. But what we see is that even when they are showing this automatic behavior, in a way they are able to control some elements in this behavior, and clutching, when they are holding and clutching, might be a way that they use to explore and to understand what's happening with their body, how to use their body, and how to interact using their body with the environment. So we see that this exploratory behavior increase from 2 days old to 3 months old. And we see also that the time of each clutch behavior, so how long he stay in each clutching behavior, it's getting smaller when they get older. So it seems to us, of course, that there is a mechanical control. It's kind of motor control of this, but of course that they, when they explore more, when they have more experience, they are able to do this faster. So they can change even the duration of each behavior. All this before they are able to reach and grasp alone by themselves. So they were not reaching and grasping objects when we had this experiment. And when we compared the contingent condition where they were making the video show up and where they were not doing the video show up, what we see is that in the non-contingent condition, they showed more exploratory behavior. So the number of clutches were bigger, and the duration of clutches was bigger too. So seems to us that they were, when the condition was not in agreement what they thought it was, they were trying to find some kind of relationship between these, so the exploratory behavior increased. And the main findings based on this is that the clutching behavior or the hands behavior changes during the first 3 months after birth. So it's like the system is getting organized to be able to reach and grasp. And the variation of this behavior, the variation of hands behavior, is an indicative of exploratory behavior, so they are trying to learn. It's more like Ruth's videos about the organization of the sand. So they are trying to catch up how to use the hands. But we see that clutching is an active behavior. So they are in control of their hands. Maybe not of their full hands behavior, but in some elements they are able to interfere. And this is not automatic response. This is being because of the environmental thing that's going on. And then to try to keep together the things that we find in the experiment, and to be able to put this in everyday life, so apply this to infant care, or how could we help people to infant care in a better way to offer them better opportunities. We wrote this paper trying to combine the theory that we know that is based on dynamical system theory and ecological psychology, that we should that the systems can get organized, and there is a theoretical background in this paper, but also we made suggestion of what kinds of opportunities a caregiver, parents could offer that is opportunities to develop, because they are so simple, and maybe people don't know that when they are doing this, when you put something into the hand of an infant, you are giving him opportunities to interact. So, and then we suggest some activities for hands movements. It's just for hands movements, and combining with social interaction. And all the suggestions are based on developmental studies. So in experimental setups for developmental studies. And surprisingly, these directions reach internet around the world in a way that, so opposite as that concept of things that we find on internet about don't do this and don't do that with an infant because you can damage, you can do this. This was like, do it, do like this, do like that, that will be important for them. Just in infant websites or newspapers websites from around the globe. And we were like this. So the suggestions that we've done is, I'll just bring some examples. So in this experiment, for example, we must offer some kind of objects for infants with different textures, and sometimes the infant can see the object that he is touching or she is touching, and sometimes he can't see. And the original experiment just was investigating the holding time during the situation where the infant were seeing the object and the situation where the infant were not seeing, and where the object was congruent what were they are seeing. So if they are touching the texturized object and they were seeing that or not. And the matching conditions, it means when they were seeing the texture object and touching the texture object, the holding times increased. So it's just to show that you can just offer different textures and with and without vision when you are doing everyday things like changing diapers, bathing, or taking baths. And the other one, you can just show different configurations of your fingers. Different configurations of your fingers. And the original experiment could show that infants were showing different types of fingers configuration as the demonstration was doing. So using one finger, using two fingers, and using three fingers. So infants could imitate fingers movements. So this is Laura. Another one. The infants were able to put their arms in the limelight just to be able to see their arms and their hands. So the lady who designed these experiments, it's in here. So, and Laura said the same. So it was a dark room, and when the parents put the lights on, so she was like 1 month and a half at that time. She was trying to keep her arms in the limelight. And another simple thing that you can do is just put toys or objects into a basket and take it out from the basket. But the original experiment was looking for if the infants were able to predict the adult's action. So in the original experiment, they recorded they had the eye tracking of the infants to see if they were predicting that the object was going into the basket or out of the basket. But this is just a simple thing that you can do and offer stimulation. And in the experiment, just infants about 12 months old could predict adults' action. And this other one, it was about pre-reaching movements. But so when the infant have the object in front of him, he tries, even that they are not able, but he tries with the arms and with the hands, tries to catch the object. But first you can just show the object in different directions just to see if they can keep looking to that, just to offer opportunities to they use eye-hand coordination. And this other one is when you show a 3D object or a real object, and when you show a picture of an object, the pre-reaching movements, they are different, so they can even differentiate if it's a reachable object or if it's a picture of an object, from 1 to 16 days old. And then you can show them, as you do, like congruent actions and incongruent actions. But just to show them how we use objects or how we can manage things in the world. And the other one, just when you are like breastfeeding or have a bottle, if you offer the opportunity to infants to clutch, it's just simple, just put the fingers into their hands and they will try to coordinate. They will at least have the opportunity to feel what they're doing when they are sucking and all those coordinate movements that they need to be breastfed and or to be fed. And they can try to use hands and they can do this in a coordinated way. And they investigate this, offering infants different situations where in the bottle that they were sucking, they had a liquid, they had a fluid to suck and they don't. So they showed different behaviors in those different conditions. So, taking together all the studies that we've seen here, so from the deep knowledge of what's going on behind the process of development into the brain, what we saw yesterday from the early detection and the early interventions and the social learning that we could see in Capuchins, and the mother-infant interaction and these everyday activities based on what the infants are able to do from the beginning. I think to do all this science reach people, because the science is being doing, but we need to do the science reach people, and for that we need public policies to make them reach them, to make the science reach the people. And this must be obvious, because the way that we care for and the way that we think that infants are is the way that we care them. And the infants are the adults' next generation. So the way that we treat them will reflect in the kind of society that we will have. So it was just to try to show up that we are kind of doing things, but at least for us, it's been difficult to do things that we do reach people that need it. So, thank you.
Yeah.